Democrats have their own horrible, horrible political firestorm. So there's an ICE crackdown that's been getting a lot. The Democrats are also facing a huge, huge issue series in the polls. So this is where we bring the Trump stuff, the Fauci stuff, all of it all together. And this is where things start to get a little bit squirrely. So according to the polling that just came out from the Quinnipiac group, the party net approval, Republicans are down 34 points. People are not super thrilled about Republicans in Congress. However, Democrats are down as low as I think we've ever seen it. They are down. They have a net unfavorable. They're like down 44 points in favorability. They're having a rough time. Independents view Democrats, the Democratic Party, with a net favorability rating of 30%. The disapproval rate, as far as independents are concerned, for the Democrats, going into this midterm election season, 70% disapproval. That's insane. And the generic congressional ballot, as I've cited before here on the show, it varies from polling group to polling group throughout July. Republicans have been a lot closer than you might expect. However, Republicans do have a little bit of an Achilles heel. According to Lakshya Jain on the argument and some of their polling, Democrats are leading on the congressional ballot primarily because of the military conflict in Iran. And that gives them, believe it or not, a series of problems going into this election. We're going to talk about it. Radio crew, we know you guys have to head out because of the FCC rules. We'll catch you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. So right now, based on the available polling that we're getting from every single angle, it appears that while everyone expected the economy to be what's really killing voters with Republicans, that's not it. It's the Iranian conflict as it goes on, which, by the way, this is something that's been known, tale as old as time. While a military activity, while a military operation is ongoing, people aren't a fan of it. If the country walks away a winner, everyone suddenly loves it. And so the Trump administration has made that gamble. However, here's the fun thing. You are supposed to see Republicans losing a ton of ground on the economy, and you're just not. Voters seem to blame Donald Trump more for the economy than they are blaming Republicans in the House for it. And it's very, very interesting. I talked about this with producer Daniel this afternoon, because normally what you see is the president's approval rating tied to the generic congressional ballot. That's what you normally see. So like if Trump's doing really great stuff, you're supposed to see Republican support surge and Democrat support flunk. And then when Trump's approval rating goes down, Republicans' approval rating are supposed to fall with it. That's not what's happening, because voters are relying less and less and less on Congress. And the midterms are becoming less and less and less of a slam against the president of the United States. They are. They're just not as impactful. And the polling data so far is showing that whereas Republicans are supposed to be really, really, really down in the ditch, they're just not. So Republicans are in this danger zone territory for the Democrats on the generic ballot. But believe it or not, that's not the worst thing. Before we get to what is truly the worst thing for the Dems, because this is a totally different electoral map. There, I'll spoil it for myself. Jim Garrity over at National Review said that the last big issue that Republicans have is the economy. It is, because the Iran war stuff, he argues, is going to be baked into the polls by the time you hit the midterms. As in, he doesn't see voters going out to the DMV, because that's what going to vote is like. It's like going to the DMV. It sucks. He said that he doesn't really see people coming out to the polls in aggravation over Iran. He doesn't see that. What he does see people coming out to the polls over maybe is the economic situation, and that regarding tariffs. He doesn't like the president throwing in essentially a bunch of tariffs in on international groups right before the election. That makes sense, given that the latest CBS YouGov poll finds that 64% of U.S. adults oppose any new tariffs on imported goods, and then 36% support them. And there's even kind of in that 36% support that's maybe not as great. So that brings us over to the administration. What are they actually doing here? Well, this gets to the administrative aims on actually developing the economy. So Secretary Chris Wright, Secretary of Energy, has talked about adding a bunch of additional megawatts on the power grid, making energy cheaper here at home. If that pays off before the election, there's going to be dividends. but it isn't a guaranteed thing yet. Here's the secretary.
We're here just to celebrate the Department of Energy is leasing these federal lands to multiple private companies to build some new nuclear technologies, as you spoke about, also to build 2 gigawatts of new natural gas power generation that'll serve both a 1.2 gigawatt data center that'll be built here. That's the majority of that $100 billion, but also to add 800 megawatts of additional power onto the grid here, which will benefit all of the surrounding states.
So the point that the Trump administration is making is that by kind of sweet talking big tech and investing a ton of money in building new power plants, sure, some of the power will go to data centers, and then a bunch of the offshoot power then goes to the neighboring areas. And we're seeing some of the additional power supply being added in places like Texas and in Florida. We're not actually seeing the energy rates spike that was being promised. Now, all that I've told you so far, all that I've said so far in this, and I know it's kind of a lot of vegetables, not really exciting, all of this so far is whether or not Republicans will come out to vote. I have not said independence. None of this is about wooing independence. It's not. And the reason that none of this is about wooing independence is because there are very, very, very few people who are still undecided. Very, very few. And additionally, as David Wasserman points out over at the Cook Political Report, none of this may even matter. None of this may even matter. Why? Because the number of swing districts is declining sharply, and the number of majority Republican districts is growing sharply. You may remember this whole big fight about redistricting and gerrymandering, again, which kind of started up in the New England area a couple of years ago, that eventually moved into a conversation about racially gerrymandered districts in Texas and in the American South, and then swept out and Republicans gained a bunch of prospective seats once you no longer had districts that were governed by a racial selection, which, you know, kind of sounds like the whole point of the civil rights movement. Well, Democrats have been panicking consistently, not only because the Democrats are sufficiently in debt, which we're going to get to, and also losing a bunch of money to scammers in the meantime, which is just freaking hilarious. There are a bunch of Republican districts that are not special election territory. I'll get to that in a second. What you're seeing right now is that, according to his statement, I actually want to pivot over there and make sure that I get his exact kind of function here, or his exact analysis. The reason that this particular midterm is going to be particularly spicy, it's yielded a House map that is far more Republican and far less elastic, meaning you don't have a lot of swing district fights going on. Democrats now need to win 57 of 77 seats in the R+5 to D+5 range in order to win a House majority. So allow me to explain. Districts that are considered swing districts, either they have like a kind of +5 Republican or a +5 Democrat, it kind of changes from time to time. Democrats need to win 74% of all swing districts in order to win a House majority. And that is if Democrats were in the best of places right now. Here's the thing. Republicans right now may be demoralized. And I brought this up right after talking about Fauci for a reason. There are a lot of Republicans who are not super thrilled about the things that Congress is doing. There are a lot of Republicans and independents who are not super thrilled about like how Trump's handling some aspects of the economy. There are a lot of Republicans who have some unease with how the Trump administration is handling the Gulf War II electric boogaloo, whether they think the Trump administration should be going harder or not going at all or taking it a totally different direction. Whether or not that makes Republicans get out to vote changes based on the age. Republicans are an older party. Older individuals are likely to go vote, rain or shine, snow or hail, dry or wet. Republicans are more likely to go out and vote. The Democrat Party is more based right now on the youths, who are very much fair weather fans. And if they're not ecstatic about their candidate, they're not going to vote. They're not. Why? Because we've seen this the last 8 elections. I've been told the youths are coming, and then they don't. They don't. They're a nice salad seasoning, but it's not the actual dish. And that brings us over to the Democrat Party, because the Democrats are not fine right now. This is not a midterm election in which you have a ton of policy proposals and things that we totally would be doing. The only policy proposals that have been put forward are universal health care that no one has any plan for. It's just like, oh, we're going to give you health care. No other questions, please. And then all of the policy proposals from the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, which have split the party so strongly that now Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader, won't even answer questions about one of the primary calls from the Democratic Socialists of America, which is abolish the Senate of the United States.
The Democratic Socialists of America recently released their new platform. One of the things in that platform is to abolish the Senate and create a new unicameral House in Congress. Is this something Democratic Socialist candidates have been winning in races across the country? Is this something that has a place, this type of policy position in the Democratic
Party? The bottom line is Democrats from one end of the spectrum to the other are going to be working to defeat Trump, to bring down costs.
Defeat Trump. We want to make it all about Trump because that's really the only thing they've got any kind of think they have footing on. That doesn't correlate to the polls. Number two, they're going to bring down prices. They do not tell you how. They won't tell you how. There's no plan to bring down prices for the left.
To go after his corruption.
And then they're going to make it a bunch of investigations and courtroom hearings and proceedings, which is not selling voters. Seriously, there are no independents, not a single one that I have seen anywhere of any credibility that has said, oh, I tell you what, we need a bunch of congressional hearings right now. No.
And to end the chaos.
And to end the chaos. Ah, yes, because the Democrat Party is definitely not chaotic at all. I don't think this is going to go the way that you believe that it is there, Chuckles. And the reason is that regarding the chaos, and I'll get to the email scam here in a second because the DNC is also out of money. This is all about propensity. Democrats are very, very demoralized at the moment. They're not as excited as some of the media outlets are saying, oh, everyone's very, very energized and ready to go. No. Not seeing it. Independents are not going to go. This is not one that people are eager to throw their hat in. It's going to be a very low propensity election. And right now that favors Republicans. The internal fighting in the Democrat Party is not helping. The Democrats being broke, very, very broke right now is not helping. Calling for Ken Martin, the leader of the DNC, to resign in the middle of the cycle. It's not helping. Replacing Graham Plattner in the middle of the cycle. It's not helping. A lot of problems, a lot of issues.